Destiny is all. Hey, and welcome to the Ruby Tuesday. My name's Ruben, and this is my review for The Last Kingdom. Season 5, the final season. If you're watching this review, then you've obviously seen the 4 seasons previous. Otherwise, this will be spoilers for you. Let's get into it as non-spoilery as I can, but obviously I'm going to be talking a little bit about kind of plot moments without revealing who's died or what's really happening, just kind of give you a taste for what's to be expected. So let's just get into it and we can talk about it in the comments below. Looking forward to your comments. Thanks so much for watching. Okay, so season 5, 10 episodes. We were wondering whether we're going to get that 10 or the 8. We got 10. They're all just under an hour long. And we find ourselves with our characters, with what has happened at the end of season 4, all over the place. There's this amazing opening with Breda. She's in Iceland. She's got a child. As we saw, she was pregnant. Uhtred didn't kill her, and so we've seen now that after she escaped her slavery in season 4, she has vowed to come back with a vengeance. We knew that was going to be a big part of the storyline, and it definitely is. We've seen Uhtred now in Runcorn. He is with his men. He kind of has his own place. There seems to be a semblance of happiness. He's got Ethelstan, who's going to raise at the king's behest or orders, and Edward, he himself has got to deal with his new kind of, I guess, peace with his sister, who they've got for the first time as close as they can be to their father's wishes. Alfred basically creating England. And sorry about my sword. I feel like when you're talking about a Viking and sword in The Last Kingdom, you kind of need to hold a sword. It makes me feel more manly. So, don't hate me. I can say that because it's the last season, we're going to get a film after this, but basically this wraps up the whole story. Feels like it comes full circle, and it's written really well. Based on the 10 books, so each season has been 2 books. The 5th season is book 9 and 10, and the film is going to be 2 of the 3 books that were written afterwards. And apparently, if you are watching this as a first-time watcher, the film at least, you can just go in there because it doesn't really have much to do with season 5. So there you can see that it's really contained story. And here, if you are invested in these characters, I think you're going to find that you might have some manly tears if you're a man watching this. If you're a woman, I presume that you will be as invested as the dudes watching this, because I am not ashamed to say that multiple times during this final season, I was... there was some. It was dusty, man, real dusty a number of times. Because it's the final season, they're going to play around with characters that have been along with us for this journey many times. Many times I was kind of shouting at the screen or making weird noises. I was watching between my TV and my phone, and my wife was listening to me as I was like going, no, or come on, or, all the emotions is kind of rife in this series because they kind of gone for it. I also feel like there's a massive amount of battle scenes where we're going to get those clashes again from our characters all over the place, who's fighting for which kingdom. There's always some little snake in the grass, and that one snake in the grass here, as we've seen from season 4, has so messing with people's minds. That person has now orchestrated something that is going to basically shape the whole of season 5. So where we found our characters in season 1 all over the place, this movement from this character, without doing spoilers, brings them all together in one way or another, and mostly that's battle and who's going to fight for who's going to sit on the throne. Very much reminds me in parts as Game of Thrones, although it doesn't have a lot of fantasy that way. Sometimes we deal more into the pagan ways, but not much. Obviously there's no dragons, but it definitely has that kind of violence that we'd expect, quite gory in places. This time around there isn't much sex. I think there was one nude scene, but apart from that, the battles here is what they were going for. The action sequences are so tense because you're so invested with the characters. I think there was one shot that annoyed me when someone was walking, and it was so shaky cam. And I don't know why they still do shaky cam these days, because we know that our eyes are the balance. So even though our head and our movement might be like that, our eyes are the balance inside our head, and so we don't actually see like that. So that's like my little irk. But that was the only thing I disliked about this season, because the rest was great. Our actors get a lot of time in massive dialogues, in moments coming to fruition of relationships that have come full circle. Some are going to end, unfortunately. There's going to be a lot of times in this series where you're like, I really hope that that character was going to survive. That's not going to be a case for a lot of the characters. There may even be a few that surprises you who die in this series. It does have a really satisfying series ending, and the whole of episode 10, there's a build up from 8 and 9, and then we get to 10. It's a massive battle. But as I was saying before, there are so many battles. I think there's at least almost a battle in every episode. At least that's what it felt like. There are action scenes. And I didn't mind it because we've had 4 seasons building up these characters on every journey. And it also feels a little bit like the writers purposely wrote in some of the characters that were no longer in the series to kind of have everybody drawn back in together. And I really enjoyed that because we're seeing faces we probably thought maybe that had been written out, but they've come together again. Some characters that I thought somehow would be, out of the story by now. Heston, I had no idea how he was still alive, but somehow at the end of season 4 he was still around, and so we get him still as a character in season 5. We get our warrior nun who is about Uhtred. He does seem to be cursed, and he believes he's cursed. If you think all the hardships that he's gone through in seasons 1, 2, 3 and 4, if you thought that was hard, season 5 is on another level because of what Brita starts and what she does, and then the other enemies that are in the camp. And you just think, man alive, how much can one man go through and still be the man of honor that he is? And I guess that's why we so love his character. And so when we get this moment, there is a moment that is like good for him, which I really appreciated. And there is kind of like this flashback of the moments of his life. And I just thought it was so well edited. And I think that kind of speaks very cleverly as to what they've done with this show. They've been building up. Each series has kind of had its own flow and turn, but kept to what is going on within the series. Keeps you on the edge of your seat between each episode, wanting to know what's happening between one season and the next, but one episode and the next. And in season 5, it feels like a roller coaster tension-filled ride. There's barely any downtime in the tension, although there are lots of monologues and lots of talk, and what's happening in those is always the politics that's going to lead to someone's death or somebody being invaded. The cinematography as well in this particular season is fantastic. All you have to do is watch the first 5 minutes in the Icelandic shots. I believe there's a singer, I think in the first 5 minutes of the opening, beautifully shot. But if you're a fan, let me know if you noticed her. Wonderful makeup, wonderful costume design, just in the first 5 minutes. And so if you kind of want to know what you're in for, literally just have to watch the first 5 minutes, and you're like, oh, okay, cinematography, beautiful shots, and then really intenseness of what's going to come. I think the battles and the fight sequences have just gone from strength to strength as well. Everybody that is fighting is believable, from young to old. Those that are warriors fight well, those that aren't don't. And it's always funny to see that those characters that come up and going, yeah, I can definitely take you on against a veteran warrior, don't last very long, or they need a lot of help. And I think that was part of the fun of watching characters grow, because there are characters at the beginning of this series like Alfred's wife, who I really didn't like, and I was like, I can't wait for her to be killed off. But she stuck around, and by the end of whatever with her character role in season 5, if it comes to an end, I'm not saying, but with her character, where it's ended up in season 5, I was just like, I really like her now. And even the bad guys, the villains, are very well thought out and grown. They make you really dislike them a lot, so that when there is fighting or there's turmoil or when they get their comeuppance, you enjoy that. But also, it's not just black and white. It's hard to know for where you're supposed to have your own loyalties as a viewer watching. Uhtred is that same character. You often want him to choose one side, but then you realize that he's always torn between, because he is both Dane and Saxon. So it makes a very interesting story with the turmoil and emotion. And you're always wondering if he's going to get his bourbon beer? Uhtred of bourbon beer. If he's ever going to get his home that he's been trying to claim since season 1. I was eventually calling him of Bebenbeard. I was calling him that, Uhtred, not of Bebenbeard, because he just wasn't getting it. And every woman that he seems to encounter either dies, betrays him, or wants to kill him. It does seem like the writers have written him a curse, which makes him so much more complicated and interesting character to watch, and those around him, his family, It's been an interesting ride, but I do feel like this season was fantastic. Let me know how you would rank them. I think it's very hard to rank this series because it feels like basically it's one story just cut up between the 10 books. I'm looking forward to the film, but I just don't know how that's going to fit in and what that's going to feel like. I know it's been filmed now, and we'll probably get it end of 23, maybe earlier than that. But we'll have to wait and see. Let me know your thoughts on this series. Who have been your favorite characters that have died in the series so far, your top 3, and who of those, when you've watched it? Let me know your thoughts down below. Thanks so much for watching. Destiny is all.